knows Stephen White from Plaid is going to be joining us. He's going to be moderating the comment section. So if you have any questions about our painting tonight or any comments or anything like that, make sure to comment them and Stephen will be watching those and then relaying your questions and comments over to me. So in the supply list, I think that we called out an 11 by 17 canvas. So that's what we're working with here. And then we called out a variety of FolkArt acrylic paints. So the ones that we're going to be using today are Daffodil Yellow, True Blue, Coffee Bean, Licorice, Pure Orange, Cardinal Red, Classic Green, and Wicker White. So those are all the paints that you're going to want to have by you to follow along with me today. I don't think I even really introduced the painting. We're going to be painting this trio of pumpkins. It's really cute. It's perfect for fall. It'll be really simple to paint. I'm very excited that you're all here to paint along with me today. So you're going to want to have your paints, your canvas, a variety of brushes. I think we listed a Craftsmart brush set. So that is the one that you're going to want to be using today. We're working with a variety of flat brushes, a couple of smaller round and liner brushes, and then a water basin. I like to have a blow dryer by me because sometimes I want my layers to be dry before I add another layer on top. And then your palette paper, or whatever kind of palette that you're working with. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And if you don't mind switching it to that overhead view. Thank you. Okay, great. So the first thing that we're going to want to do today is we are going to go ahead and make some sketches, really, really simple sketches on our canvas. So about 2.5 inches down, I'm going to mark where we want the top of our pumpkin to be. Just so we have a good landing of, where we want it to start. And then it's going to fall kind of right here. Let's call that like 6 inches in. So in one swooping motion, we're going to just sketch out the shape of our largest pumpkin that's sitting on the left here. And so the shape that we're looking for is kind of like a wide oval. And we're just creating that arc because we don't see all of our pumpkin in the finished painting. He's just kind of sticking in on the side. Okay, so now we're going to focus on our tiny little pumpkin that's in the corner here, about 4 inches in. A shape like that. Just some wide circles. And then in the center here, we'll draw our medium pumpkin. So he's going to this medium pumpkin is going to intersect the biggest pumpkin, but it's not going to overlap our little pumpkin here. So we'll start over here and then he'll come around here. Just like that. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and erase these lines that are on the inside of our middle pumpkin because those are going to be covered up by paint anyway. So I'm just erasing a couple of these lines. And now we are ready to start painting. So the first things that we're going to add to our palette are Wicker White and Pure Orange. Okay, so I am going to take a larger flat brush, like a 3/4 inch or 1 inch flat brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my pure orange and I'm going to mix it into my wicker white. So I would say the ratio that we're looking for here is about 2/3 wicker white to 1/3 pure orange. And by the end, we should have a really soft orange color, almost kind of like a creamsicle. Just like this. And with our creamsicle color, we're going to go ahead and fill in this pumpkin on our far left that we sketched out. And just carefully brushing up to those sketched out lines that we drew, just carefully painting around those. Okay, just like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and rinse my brush. Okay, and if you need more pure orange on your palette, then go ahead and add some more. If you have enough, then you're good to go. Now we're going to base coat our little tiny pumpkin on the right here with just pure orange. Okay.
Hey, Emma, can we scoot the original painting into frame just a little bit more? I know you
Yeah,
have limited space there.
hopefully that's better.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so I'm actually not going to rinse my brush yet because we can deal with some pure orange on the brush. And into our palette, we are going to introduce some of our Cardinal red. Okay, so we're going to do some more paint mixing. I hope you guys have your paint mixing caps on today because we're going to do quite a bit of it. I'm going to mix a ratio of about 2/3 of my pure orange to 1/3 of my Cardinal red, making a really deep, rich, reddish orange color. And we're going to fill this pumpkin in with that really beautiful, vibrant, rusty orange red that we just created. I did mix quite enough. I'm going to mix a little bit more of that color. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush. How's everybody doing in the comment section, Stephen?
I think we're doing good. And if you
Awesome.
guys do have any questions, be sure to leave them in the chat and I will relay them over to Emma.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna move this right here. Hopefully you guys can still kind of see it. I'm going to go ahead and blow dry my painting as it is right now. Okay, so I am going to take a smaller flat brush, about a 1/2 inch flat. I'm going to take some of that light orange, that kind of creamsicle color that we mixed first. I'm going to apply some more Wicker white to my palette. And I'm going to take some of that creamsicle color and do a 50-50 ratio of that creamsicle to Wicker white. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top of our pumpkin and make some little, start at the top and pulling our brush down, making little brush strokes like so. So we're starting at the top and we're just coming down. And we want these brush strokes here to be really irregular looking. So one will be shorter, the next one will be longer, and then this one is even a little bit longer than that, and so on. We just want them to look really sporadic and rustic looking. And then we come close to this pumpkin. Just make sure not to overlap onto the middle pumpkin. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and actually we don't really even need to rinse our brush. Moving on to the middle pumpkin, we're going to do the same technique that we just did in the last one, starting at the top of our pumpkin and bringing those brush strokes down in a really irregular way. We have just mostly light orange on our brush, and that's totally fine. So for our next pumpkin that we're going to do, we are going to take some of that pure orange and apple red mixture that we made. Remember, that was like a 2-to-1 ratio of orange to red, and we got that really beautiful rustic orange color. I'm going to take some of that color that we mixed, and then I'm going to go ahead and mix it again, about a 50-50 ratio of wicker white. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. But first, because we don't really start at a hard edge like this side, I am going to, just so we keep that same form of the pumpkin that we want, I am going to apply some paint to the top of my pumpkin here. So that way, when we pull down, we don't have to worry about the flat edge of our brush creating a flat line where we don't want it to be, if that makes sense, on the top of our pumpkin. Okay, until we end up with something like that. How are we all doing, Stephen?
I think we are still good.
Okay, cool. So now for our final pumpkin, we are going to take some of that pure orange and mix it with just a little bit of white. So we're looking here for a ratio that is definitely more orange than white. We're just trying to lighten that pure orange color just a tiny bit with that white.
Tatiana asked, do you mix it in with white right as you said that? So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, same thing that we did for our middle pumpkin here. I'm going to go ahead and initially mark the top of our pumpkin just so we know when we bring our brush down, we don't create any hard lines with it. Just like that, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my brush. Okay, so I am going to take a liner brush, kind of looks like this. We're going to be making these lines on our pumpkin. So really you can pull any brush that you feel comfortable making lines with. If you want to use a liner brush, a round brush, the tip of a flat brush, whatever you feel comfortable with, feel free to use that. I am going to dip my brush into that color that we mixed to create this pumpkin. So remember that was our ratio of orange and red with about 2 parts orange to 1 part red. And we're going to use that color to create these lines on our pumpkin. So starting at the left side here, I'm going to start about this high on my pumpkin. And in one swooping motion, I'm going to bring it down like this.
Emma, can you repeat what colors you were using for the lines?
Yeah, so for these lines that we're making right now, it is a ratio of 2 parts orange to 1 part red.
Thank you.
Sure. And if you feel like your brush is dragging a little bit, maybe your paint has dried a little bit, one tip that I would give you guys, you can see I'm doing it the same thing right now. You can just dip your brush into your water basin. And so since your brush is wet, once you re-dip your brush into your paint, you'll see that your brush glides a lot smoother on your canvas now that it's a little damp. See, much, much better. Okay, so we're just filling in these lines. So this line's going to come up a little bit. It's going to be a little bit shorter than our first line. Our fourth line's kind of mirroring that first line that we made, and it's switching directions, so it looks like parentheses. And then part of this line is a little bit hidden by our middle pumpkin. Just like that. Okay. Now we're going to skip ahead a little bit and we're going to do the lines for this pumpkin. So using that ratio of orange and red that we just used with these lines, what we're going to do is we're going to add just a touch of red to that mixture to create just a similar hue, but a lot more red heavy, a lot more red forward. Just like that. Okay, so without rinsing my brush, to my palette, I am going to add a little bit of our coffee bean. So I'm going to take some of that cardinal red. So like, let's say 2/3 cardinal red to 1/3 coffee bean. I'm going to mix those two together. And this is going to be the color of the lines in our middle pumpkin. just like that. I'm gonna rinse my brush. How are we doing, Steven? Still good?
Yeah, still good.
Okay, cool. Okay. So taking another smaller flat brush, we are going to paint the stem of our pumpkin. So we have some coffee bean on our palette still. And I'm gonna paint just kind of like a little box right there on our lightest pumpkin. And I'm gonna make one brush stroke at the top here. You guys can see. And then I'm gonna kind of fan my brush and go in a kind of zigzag pattern. Applying more paint as you need it, but I'm just kind of wiggling my brush back and forth, holding my brush perpendicularly to the canvas, kind of just wiggling it like that. Okay, so without rinsing my brush, next we're going to add to our palette some licorice. And together a ratio of about, let's actually say this ratio is going to be mostly coffee bean, mostly that brown color, and just the tiniest bit of our licorice, which is our black. And the reason being is because black wants to turn most colors black. So we really only want the tiniest amount of black added to our coffee bean. Barely anything. And you can always add more black, but to fix the ratio, if there's too much black, you'd have to add quite a bit of coffee bean to it. So stick with less black, test it out, see if it's the color you want. And then you can always add a little bit more black if it's not. Okay. And with this color, we are going to do the same technique that we did on our largest pumpkin, making that little box, filling it in, and then holding our brush perpendicular to our, making that little line right there. Then holding our brush perpendicular, kind of go in a back and forth pattern, defining that stem. Okay. And then lastly, with this color of brown and black that we just created, first of all, I'm going to add a little bit more Wicker white to my palette. And we are going to lighten this color up and add a little bit of white to it. Let's say like a 50-50 ratio of that black and brown color that we just mixed to white. Just like that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my brush, and then after that, I'm gonna go ahead and blow dry my painting to lock it in place. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is we're gonna introduce to our palette some classic green. You know what, while we're at it, we're gonna introduce some classic green, some true blue, and some daffodil yellow to our palette. Okay. Taking a smaller flat brush, I am going to mix about a 50-50 ratio of classic green and true blue. Oh, a little too blue. Let's tone that down a little bit. Let's actually say like a 2-to-1 ratio, more green than blue. And with this color, we are going to create these darker green leaves that you see all throughout our painting. So in the corner here, we have a little bit of leaves. So at the top of the leaf, I'm gonna touch down, go out like that, then mirroring that same shape on the other side. So we have one leaf there. We have another leaf about here. You can practice your leaves if you want. So we're kind of making a C stroke this way and then a mirrored C stroke that way. It's just a swoop down and then opposite side, swoop down and then fill it in. And then up here, we have another leaf. Like that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush. Actually, before I rinse my brush, I'm sorry. We can keep this color that we have on our brush. We're going to mix this color. So take a little bit of that green and blue that you mixed together. And now we're going to introduce a little bit of our daffodil yellow. More yellow than blue-green on your mixing board here. Want it to be pretty yellow heavy because when we do that, we're going to get this really lovely lime green color. And we are going to paint in some of those lighter green leaves with that lime green we just mixed. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush. And taking a small round brush, we're going to create some more lines. So whatever you feel comfortable creating lines with, I'm going to use a liner brush. If you want to use a round brush, a flat brush, totally up to you. We're going to paint some of the vines that are wrapped around our pumpkin stems. So remember, we have that color that we mixed of our true blue and our classic green together for our darker green. So we're going to just kind of paint a little curly Q, wrapping around our stem. One there. One here. And then the same for our lighter green color as well.
Emma, what is the color mixture for your little curly cues there?
So that is the same color as our dark green leaves. So that is our classic green and our true blue together, like 2 parts green to 1 part blue.
Gotcha.
Okay, you guys. So if you remember, a little while ago, we mixed together some of our coffee bean and our licorice. That's our brown and our black color. Mostly brown, but we added just a touch of black just to darken it a bit. And we ended up with this really beautiful dark brown. Mine is kind of drying up a little bit, so I'm just going to repeat that same process. So mostly coffee bean and just a touch of licorice to darken it. So we're going to mix that again if you need to. If yours is still wet, then feel free to use that paint. And with this color, this dark brown color, this is going to be the stem for these leaves that are kind of coming up here. And it's also going to be the stem for these berries that we have coming out from our pumpkins. So intersecting our biggest leaves, we're going to make a line down our leaves and just coming across here. Make sure you connect some smaller leaves if you painted any smaller leaves. I did, so go ahead and connect them. Intersect this big leaf here. Connect that smaller one, just like that. And same deal coming from our pumpkins here. So I'm going to paint one stem here. Not too high. And then kind of a wishbone shape, another stem coming up here, leaving space to paint some of those berries in. Maybe one here. And then one little guy over here. Okay, so now is the fun part, you guys. What I did when I created these berries is I just reused some of the paint that we mixed all throughout our painting here. Since we mixed together so many beautiful hues of orange and red and really rusty brown colors, I just used those colors that we mixed to fill in for our berries. And I'm going to give you guys a really neat trick for painting little tiny perfect circles in your painting. I love to use the end of a paintbrush. So I'll show you guys. So I'm going to start with this light orange color. I'm going to dip the end of my paintbrush in there. And then I'm just going to swirl tiny little dots on my stems. And you end up with some really perfect little circles for our berries. And I just take a paper towel to wipe off the paint from my brush and then go ahead and load it with a new color. You can also use a pencil eraser to make some really perfect little circles. That would work too. But usually when I'm painting with a paintbrush. So I always have one of those on hand. Some of my colors dried up a little bit, so I'm going to mix a couple more.
So Emma, when you're putting down the colors for the berries, are you kind of putting them in a random pattern, or are you trying to not put too much of the same color on one stem?
Yeah, that's a great question, Stephen. So I am personally strategically not wanting too many of the same colors to butt up right against each other. I want there to be some variety. That's just my personal taste, what I like, but you can, if you want all of your colored berries to be near each other and so on, then you can totally do that. It's totally up to you.
And can you real quickly, while you're doing that, kind of explain how you did the top of the pumpkin again? Like, I guess the stem is what they mean.
Yeah, so we just kind of painted a little square shape and then holding our brush perpendicular to our canvas, we kind of went in a back and forth motion, rotating our brush all at the top to kind of get this pattern, like that, rotating our brush as we move across. Hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, a couple more little berries. And then I have one more finishing touch to finish off our painting. Okay, so if you guys remember that beautiful deep green color that we mixed for our darker leaves, that was a ratio of about 2 parts green to about 1 part true blue. Mine kind of dried up a little bit, so if you're to take this time to go ahead and mix a little bit more. So a reminder, that was about 2 parts green to 1 part blue. Gonna mix some more of that, and I will warn you that this next step could get a little bit messy. So if you are working in an area where you don't want a little bit of paint splatter to maybe venture off of your workspace, then maybe just make sure your workspace is protected. If you have some newspaper, or if you're working on a protected workspace, then you're fine. But if you're at your beautiful kitchen table, I don't want there to be splatter on it. So I'm gonna just take some of the water from my water basin and mix some of this water into my green color. And we want it to be pretty watery. Okay, and really you can do this technique with any size brush. If you want to use a round brush, I'm using a 3/4 inch flat brush, but so you want to load some of that watered down paint onto your brush. You're going to take another brush and hold it kind of in a lowercase t, and you're going to tap the brush that has paint on it onto the brush that does not have paint on it. You're going to tap, tap, tap onto the white space of your painting. We're not touching down, we're just tapping above. And it's going to create this really beautiful splatter fly specking pattern to the top of your canvas and your pumpkins. Just like that. And with that, you guys, we just painted trio of pumpkins. So again, thank you guys so much for painting along with us today. It is always a blast. If you decide to post your creations on social media, make sure to hashtag Make It With Michaels and Plaid Crafts. We love to see what you guys are making. Don't forget to check out some of our upcoming classes here with Michaels in the community classroom. So thank you guys again so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.